My name is Ethan, and I grew up in Ash Hollow, a place where the air feels heavier than it should. My grandparents' apartment was my second home, a cramped 700 square foot space on the top floor of a sagging building at the town's edge. The walls were stained with decades of cigarette smoke, and the floorboards creaked underfoot like they were protesting every step. But it was the terrace that haunted me most. Equal in size to the apartment, it was a jungle of tangled plants, roses with thorns like claws, vines that seemed to shift when you turned away. Butterflies and birds flocked there, their movements too synchronized, as if guided by an unseen hand. At night, the terrace felt alive, its shadows pooling in corners that didn't exist in daylight. My grandparents were the kindest people I knew, their smiles warm against the chill of Ash Hollow's endless fog. But in their final years, something changed. Grandpa's eyes grew distant, like he was seeing things I couldn't. When he passed in February 2022, I found him on his bed, a crucifix clutched in his rigid hands, his face serene but wrong, too still, like a wax figure. I sat beside him, the room thick with silence, and whispered, "Grandpa, if you're still here, give me a sign." The words barely left my lips when a gust of wind roared through the apartment. Windows slammed open, their frames rattling like bones. The sliding glass door to the terrace shuddered, and the front door, bolted shut, groaned as it swung wide. My pulse hammered. The air turned cold, heavy with the scent of wet earth and something metallic. I felt eyes on me, though the room was empty. We didn't tell Grandma about his death. Her dementia had worsened, and after 60 years of marriage, the truth would have shattered her. That night I stayed to watch over her as she slept, her frail form barely denting the mattress. Around midnight she stirred, her voice a fragile thread. "My love," she murmured, "you look so young. Take me with you." The words weren't hers. They echoed, as if spoken from a vast, hollow place. My skin prickled. The kitchen light flickered, casting jagged shadows across the walls. Grandpa's old chair, always neatly tucked under the dining table, now sat at an angle, its legs scraping the floor, as if someone had just stood. On the table, his heavy lighter gleamed under the dim bulb. I'd seen it earlier, buried in a drawer of tangled cords and forgotten trinkets. Now it was here, impossibly clean, its metal cold as ice when I touched it. 9 days later, Grandma passed in her sleep, her face mirroring Grandpa's eerie calm. I still visit their apartment to tend the terrace plants, though the air there feels wrong, like it's holding its breath. 2 sparrows always perch on the railing, their beady eyes fixed on me. 2 butterflies hover nearby, their wings catching the light in patterns that make my stomach twist. I tell myself it's them watching over me. But late at night, when the wind carries the faint click of a lighter, I wonder if something else lingered in Ash Hollow, something that followed them beyond the grave. I'm Emily, and this happened when I was 6, living with my grandma in a crumbling house on the outskirts of Ash Hollow. The house was old, its paint peeling like dead skin, and the garden out back was a sprawling maze of wild grass and gnarled trees. The air there was thick, charged with a silence that pressed against your ears. I loved playing in that garden, chasing fireflies under the watchful eyes of apple trees that seemed to lean closer when I wasn't looking. One humid afternoon, while Grandma napped, I was alone in the garden, my bare feet sinking into the cool earth. The fireflies had vanished, and the air felt still, like the world was holding its breath. I wandered toward the tallest apple tree, its branches heavy with fruit I could never reach. That's when I saw him, a man who hadn't been there a moment before. He stood motionless, holding a steering wheel of all things, his hands gripping it like he was driving an invisible car. His clothes were faded from another era, and his eyes were kind but unblinking, like they saw through me to something else. He smiled, a slow, gentle curve of his lips, and plucked an apple from the highest branch. He held it out, his fingers pale and impossibly long. I wasn't scared. I was a kid, and his warmth felt familiar, like a half-remembered dream. I took the apple, its skin cold against my palm, and thanked him with a giggle. He nodded, his smile widening, then turned and walked toward the trees. I blinked and he was gone, the garden empty except for the faint hum of cicadas. I ran back to the house, clutching the apple, and forgot about him until years later. At 16, I found a photo in Grandma's attic, tucked inside a dusty album. My heart stopped. It was him, the same man, same gentle smile, frozen in black and white. Grandma's voice trembled when I asked who he was. "That's your grandpa," she said. "He died driving a truck years before you were born." I never told her I'd met him. I still visit that garden sometimes, though the trees feel taller now, their shadows stretching too far. The air hums with a presence I can't name, and I swear I hear the creak of a steering wheel turning in the distance. I'm Michael, and this happened last June on Route 17, a desolate road slicing through the woods outside Ash Hollow. It was a sweltering night, the kind where the heat clings to your skin like damp cloth. Around 10 p.m., I was driving to my girlfriend's place, the radio silent, my headlights carving a narrow path through the dark. Route 17 is a forgotten stretch, flanked by dense trees and the skeletal remains of an abandoned gas station, its windows black voids that seem to swallow light. I'd driven it 100 times, but that night the road felt wrong. The air was too still, the stars too dim, like the world had turned its back on me. After rounding a bend, I saw her, a woman walking down the center of the road, pushing what looked like a stroller. Her white dress was tattered, fluttering in a breeze I couldn't feel. Her blonde hair caught the moonlight, but her movements were off, too smooth, like she was gliding over the asphalt. I slowed to a crawl, expecting her to step aside. She didn't. I flashed my high beams, their glare illuminating the road but not her face. She kept walking, the stroller's wheels creaking in a rhythm that matched my pulse. I muttered to myself, thinking it was a prank, but the hairs on my neck stood up, warning me otherwise. I edged past her, my hands trembling on the wheel. As I did, I glanced to my right. Her face wasn't a face, it was a void, a pitch-black abyss where features should have been. A crooked smile stretched across it, sharp and wrong, lit by the faint flicker of a dying streetlight. My blood turned to ice. I floored the gas, the engine roaring as I sped away, my breath ragged. When I checked my rearview mirror, the road was empty. No woman, no stroller, just the gas station's silhouette staring back like a predator. The creak of those wheels echoed in my mind louder than it should have been. I haven't driven Route 17 since. I I told my girlfriend, but she thinks I was tired hallucinating. I know what I saw. Sometimes in the dead of night, I wake to the sound of wheels rolling outside my window. I don't look out. I can't shake the feeling that Ash Hollow's shadows are tied to her. That smile wasn't human, but it knew me, and it's still out there, waiting for me to drive that road again.